Hello and welcome. My name's Vicky Wachet and this is a Wealthy Life podcast. And for a very rare moment, here I am live in person with Judith Green. So let me just introduce Judith. So she's a business owner. She's a landlady. She's now an artist. She's a gallery owner. She's a dog lover. She's got her dogs. She's a mother. She's a grandmother. She's a really, really good friend to me. Over the years, we started off as she was a former mentee, and we've moved through probably more than 12 years together to the point where she was one of our witnesses at our wedding this summer, and she's just a dear, dear friend. But what I wanted to do was have a conversation about property and focus, and sometimes what people find is that they can't create a vision because they don't know what they want. And I think if at the end of this podcast you get out of this that we want to say that it doesn't matter, you just need something to take you forward. And when you've moved forward to that first stepping stone, you get a different vision. And when you've got that different vision, you could be clearer about the thing that you thought that you want, or you might actually decide that you don't want the thing that you thought you want, but you now can see some other opportunity. And that's what I want to hopefully get out of our conversation today. So first of all, welcome, Judith.
Oh, hi, and thank you, Vicky. That was a really nice introduction. Thank you very much.
So let's go right back to the beginning. And when we very first met, we met, a property networking event, and you already had one buy-to-let, or rather, I should say, a shared HMO. So maybe we'll describe that a little bit. But you also had caravans and you were network marketing. Describe where you were right at the very beginning when we first met.
So when we met, I had a little bit of interest in property, but I had no clue where that would go. And I just bought a HMO joint venture. I had caravans that we were renting out, and some network marketing. This was all because our main business was quite intense and stressful. And what I wanted to do was to try and find something else. I knew there was something else. I knew I was capable of having a more relaxed life. So I kept adding to the pressure to try and find this. And then I met Vicky.
So from my perspective, you are so like so many people I meet. And I know sometimes when I've done the podcast, and I think I'm really going to like maybe re-record some of these. When I very first started talking about this, a lot of my clients were men, and the men would present as the financial provider, and their job was to earn money, and money was the solution to get out of it. But what they really missed was the time. And what I've noticed over the last 18 months, almost since I've been doing the podcast, is that more and more of my clients are becoming women, which is ironic because that's back to where we were right at the beginning. So I must have had a lot of women clients. Then I must have moved to men clients, and now moving back to women clients. But a lot of the women clients are like you. They're business owners or they're senior managers, and they have this same financial provider role. Not saying that in your partnership that was just your role, but their focus was about money, and they needed to make money in order to create the life they wanted. And so like you, they then do more things to make more money and end up with less time. But the reason that they started trying to make more money was actually because what they wanted was more time.
Exactly. Time is definitely the goal, but there's a fear about failure, and it's all tied in, and it's because you don't know what to do. So you need something to guide you. You need a focus. One of the first things that you said to me when I was your mentee was, right, look at all these things you've got, and I want you to get rid of some of them, and I'm going to let you have 3 things. And that was just, but actually that's how the journey started for me to get where I am now, really.
And I think what we were looking at was, if you've got, say, 5 things, it doesn't really matter how many things you've got. If you've got 5 things, and each of these 5 things demand time, and the goal of the 5 things is to give you money, you can put these 5 things in order. So this thing takes the least amount of time for the money, and this takes the second amount of time for the second most money, and so on, then why keep spending the time on other things that don't return a lot of money? And so again, for me, and I know I go on and on and on about a spreadsheet, but I can put people's lives into spreadsheets, and the spreadsheet is either around time and money or money and passion. There's always a formula.
I think what I learned there was because each effort is diluted. The more things you've got, the effort is diluted. And that's why you have to have the focus. If you focus on one of the things, obviously you're going to get better through that thing. I think my problem was the main business wasn't really my passion. So I did have a passion about business, and I did have a passion about helping people, but it wasn't quite giving me the whole thing that I wanted, and it certainly didn't give me time. So that's why I kept trying to go outside of that box, but I needed to know how to do it properly.
But also you're going outside the box in order to fulfill the passion,
yes,
as well as to get the time.
Yes, absolutely.
And then somewhere in our conversations, I very much remember you saying that you wanted to run a bed and breakfast in the Lake District. I remember you saying that very early on, and I was thinking, goodness me, we're talking about time and like, go live in the Lake District. Why do you want to run a bed and breakfast? But actually, that's very much part of your wanting to support people and care for people.
I don't know why. I mean, bed and breakfast thing stayed with me for quite a while. And when I actually started, by the time I actually started looking up here, I knew that that isn't quite what I wanted. But before that, then the bit in between was I had invested in property. I had my own personal property, had an Airbnb in the garden. So I'd enjoyed that because I didn't have to completely get involved with it, but I was able to provide something for people, and it was easy. Extra income as well was quite good. So I was looking then for, when I eventually started looking into the Lake District, I was looking for something with property lets rather than the B&B. But yes, it was a long time dream to get up here.
So that's really interesting for me. So you started off with this not a long time ago, but you know, when we first met a long time ago, bed and breakfast, but actually, because I think the market changed and Airbnb has become more obvious, and now we've got the rise of Airbnb. So when we first met, you were living in one house, which was just a residential property. As I said, you had a joint venture HMO. Your next step was to explore the pure property line, the landlady type property line, and you went and got another HMO, and that was in your name.
Yeah.
And so now you've got two HMOs, a residential home, and you'd by that time got rid of your caravans, which would have been versions of holiday lets. It was also something that you would have had that made sense when you had the children, but now the children have left home, you weren't using them as much, so you weren't getting your pleasure out of them. You're trying to turn them into a business, but because of the locations, there was all that distance. Then you moved residential home, and that's the place you were talking about just now. And this second residential that you moved into had the space for an Airbnb. And it was an opportunity to test out that idea of the bed and breakfast.
Yes.
It showed you what it would be like. And that was great. And when we came up and we stayed there, and then you've moved to this property here. And this property, and this is particularly why I wanted to do the interview and to do it here and everything else, was this is almost, for me as an outsider looking at it, it is the culmination of all your experience, all of your knowledge mixed in with your desire. And now what we're doing is looking at the balance. So what you have here is a gallery with a cafe. The gallery now ties into the realization that you can paint, and my goodness, her paintings are beautiful. So that you can paint. So there's the passion there. There's also a new business, which I think is exciting you mentally, because you have still got your original company, which is around disabled access lifts and all of that sort of stuff. And that business is still running. You've worked on that business to a point where someone has now stepped in and taken over, but they're doing all the day-to-day. You're there as support, so it doesn't require a lot of your time. So it's that ultimate in being able to step back, and that business can pay your wages as well. You've still got your property, like landlady style property, bringing you income in. And then you've got this. Now you've got the new business, which excites the arts and the cafe.
And the 3 holiday cottages.
Yeah. And then, as if that's not enough, underneath the gallery are these 3 beautiful holiday cottages, which we're staying in. And they then bring income in. And it's systemized, so you're not the ones cleaning the toilets and washing the sheets. There's cleaners and then the whole system that brings in there. And then you've got this beautiful house here, and with the view of,
Skiddaw.
Yes, Skiddaw, and the lakes, and you're just down the road from Keswick and all of this. So now you've got what was an original dream of a bed and breakfast in the lakes to actually more than that. You've got,
it's certainly turned on its head.
Yeah.
And I think this actual place, it wasn't, I wasn't looking for the gallery. I was looking for the property, the holiday cottages. I was looking for a place with those because I felt like I could do that and it'll give me the time. Now we have taken on the gallery, which is a whole new venture. That's just because that's something that, it's given us a new passion for, and we, that'll take us along that journey for as long as it does. But the key thing is here, the key thing that it supports the whole thing is the holiday cottages again. And I think that learning, first of all, how to delegate in my original business was absolute key. And then getting the tools to how we could shift into property was just the unknown. You need support, you need that focus. And for me to do that over the years, over a period of sort of 10, 12 years, to finally get to that place. I think when I first met you, I certainly didn't know where I was financially. It was all a bit hiddle-dip. And yet I was able to create my own wealth as time's gone on.
And I think the position you're in now is you've got, and I actually don't like this phrase, and I will just explain why. So I'm going to use the phrase multiple streams of income, but multiple streams of income is often used in a sort of a get rich quick seminar setting. And what they're saying is you can set up multiple streams of income here, become a property investor, an online business owner, and do this and do that and do the other. And that very much for me smacks of the word lack of focus. But what you've done by focusing is then focused and come to a point where you have now got multiple streams of income. So you've got a wage from a business you don't work in. You've got landlady rent coming in from the property, the HMOs. You've then got Airbnb rent coming in from the new studios that you've got. You've then got a gallery and paintings that you sell, and a cafe where you get to experiment with your beautiful soups and your scones, and you've got money that comes in from there.
Organic growth, definitely.
But they're all separate. Technically, they could all be separate streams.
Absolutely.
And it would tick the box saying, oh, you've got multiple streams of income. But there's a focus here.
Yes, definitely. It's all sort of comes together. I don't feel disconnected from any of it. And yet I don't feel overwhelmed by any of it either. So I think that's the goal.
And I mean, as we did yesterday, which was a weekday for most people, we were off walking the dogs for a couple of hours through the muddy woods in the pouring rain, because of course it's the Lake Districts and we show up and it's wet.
Yes, thanks for bringing that with you, because normally the Lake District is just sunny.
Okay. Might need a few more visits before I believe that. So I think if we were just going to summarize this for someone listening and using your experience to maybe let's give several bits of advice. So there's a business owner or a senior manager out there at the moment who is probably doing all right financially, but they just don't have that time choice. Work is dominating them. What would you suggest? What advice would you give from your experience?
The first advice before you can do anything is learn to delegate. most business owners are so, we hold on to everything because nobody can do it better than us. So it's really important, in order to let yourself, go to new places, is actually to learn to delegate. Then you can step out and focus on new things too. So that's the first
Very
piece.
good. And in some senses, for the clients that then do come to me for property sources, that's effectively what they're doing.
Yes.
They're employing me as a
And
property manager.
And that is part. I mean, I was starting that journey, but I was really bad at it. So part of like Vicky's mentoring was actually to teach me how to do that, was to push me into that direction of delegation. And when you've got somebody at your side, sort of almost an expectancy of that's what should happen, then that's how you make it happen, really.
And I think that learning to delegate in your business is a very key lesson.
Definitely. You taught me some very key time management skills. Within those few lessons, we worked through step by step. We looked at each business step by step, worked out what needed to go, worked out where the loose ends were, and then having those business skills tidied up a little bit helped me then to move on to the next bit of learning, which was towards property, more property, should I say.
So let's, because you've mentioned property, then say again, if you're speaking to this same group of people, why, how do I phrase the question? What would you say to a business owner or a senior manager about why you think that property would be a good idea for them? Or something like, answer some sort of question like that.
Okay. Well, despite what's going on at different times in the world, there's always going to be different, changes around the economy, but property it's always there. It's solid, and it will come back. Whatever's going on, it will always come back. It's a great move. It's never ever let me down. And so many things have changed over the years, and it's never let me down.
I couldn't have primed you better for that one, actually. Yeah. No, I totally believe that. I think that property is always a good investment. And I'm not saying that just because that's my business, but that's my experience. I started investing, I was probably investing maybe, I don't know, close to 6 years before I met you. And then when you and I met, we were right in the middle of the global recession. That would be the last global recession that we were in,
Yes,
the global recession
Yeah.
that we could all remember, that sort of 2008 onwards period. And interest rates were high. Oh, no, they weren't. They're exactly the same as they are now. So interest rates were high.
Yes.
So they were 4 or 5% for the bank base rate. Well, that's what they are now, and it's just, everybody goes, oh, interest rates are high. But my experience of coming in and your experience of coming in is we came in on the market on these numbers, then the rates, and I'm thinking,
absolutely.
oh, actually the last couple of years the rates have been really low, whereas everybody's come in then and they're going, oh, the rates are really low, now the rates are really high. So it's a perspective thing, isn't it?
It is. I think the first property I bought was personal, not for renting out. Was the rates were 15% then. That was that time.
Yeah, no, that's high. That's definitely high.
But I made quite a bit of money on that property. So I bought it just before they shot through the roof, and then probably it doubled in price.
Yeah. So I think the thing is that property is always a good investment, is a great way to make your money work. What you have to understand is that it is a long game, and that your point of entry will be slightly different depending on where we are in the market.
Yes. Yeah, no, definitely agree to that. But I think some people worry, when they're sort of buying a property, and then think, oh, nothing's happening, or it's not gone up, or it might have gone down. It's a long game. Unless you're flipping property, of course, it's a different story. I've not done that myself, but unless you're flipping property, it's a long game.
Yeah.
But it's a long game that's worth it. And when it's there and it's yours and it's established, it will lever things, to get you somewhere else, which is what's happened to me.
And then let's round up with a final question, which is maybe about this idea of vision. So I know there are some people I speak to, and I'll start off by saying, okay, so we're here and you think you want to invest in property. Why do you want to invest in property? And they'll often say things like, because I want to make money. But for what purpose? What is the bigger vision? And I sort of started that a bit with when I met you, you wanted your bed and breakfast in the Lake Districts. What would you say about vision and how it was back when we first met, or even a bit before we met, to how it is now, and how it's changed and how you feel about how it's changed?
Okay, so I think although that was my vision then, and somewhere in between, I think I lost it at one point, and then it came back again. But when I lost it, I think my vision had turned into what I thought was my vision, was wanting more money, as you just touched on. And then I had to go around full circle, because nobody actually, it's not money that we want happiness. We're all chasing happiness, and for most of us, happiness equals time. And that is, I learned that when I didn't have enough time, that was the most important thing to me. Obviously, you need some sort of you need stability and wealth around you to enjoy that time. Of course you do, but that's not what you should be chasing. You should be chasing the things you want, and the money will follow. And that's all about focusing on your dreams. Think about what would really set your heart on fire, and then find the tools to make that happen.
Yeah, again, you're such a good mentee, because that's exactly the way I look at it. With how do you want to live your life? How much money do you need to live the life the way that you want to live it? And then wind it back and go, okay, well, given what you've got, what resources you have, what can we put to work better so that you can achieve that goal that you've got? So it's about having the clarity, having the financial control. Then it's about understanding what resources you've got, how best to leverage them, and then ending up with the legacy at the other end. And that is the 5 principles of a wealthy life.
Absolutely. And I know that if we hadn't have had that journey together, I might be in a slightly different place now. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, I want a hug. Thank you, Jude. Thank you. Well, I wanted to just take some of Jude's precious time, but also a little bit of time out from our visit, because Bob and Paul are off walking the dogs, and it's not wet today, and we've got other plans today. But just to get you to share your journey, because I think hearing people's journeys of how they started and where they are now, and how that relates to different people's journeys will pick up on different things. So yours is very much about, you had one vision, and you've refined that vision along your journey. And actually what I see, and I think what you ended up describing, was the different roles that property has played all the way along in this journey. But all the way along, there is property in there, and if we took the property out, you wouldn't have got to this end destination.
That's absolutely definite. There is no doubt whatsoever that without property, I'd have nothing, actually. And that is the truth. I'd still,
you'd have a residential house somewhere.
I'd still have my business, which is actually in a rented property, so I would still have that. But I think I would be making wages, really, in a way, because I wouldn't have been able to pull away. So I would have been just trying to grow that, and maybe I would have been able to retire reasonably comfortably at the end of it, tired.
Yes.
And I think that what focusing on other things, focusing on time, and with the little tools, the delegation side, all that, getting time back into your life, and then using property with that time and that money has helped the end result. Certainly, I just would have ended up, I think, retiring and just in a house and not having anything special. Maybe just being a bit overtired at the end of the day.
But not now either.
The thing is, now I have time and still things going on. I'm not bored. I have a very busy, colourful life, but I've got time to enjoy my own space as well. And property's done that for sure.
And retirement would, if you'd not taken this route, retirement would still be a good 10 years off.
Oh, definitely. Well,
And
now
yeah,
I can choose.
Yeah. And you've already been in this version of your dream for just over a year.
Yes.
And prior to that, you had the Airbnb version where you were
it was a testing
space.
Yeah.
You had for a few years. So it's been a journey along the way. But you've been able to, from your late 40s, early 50s, be testing out the dream, refining the dream, working on the dream. And again, it's a bit like property. Property is a long-term game. Getting the dream that you want, your version of the dream, probably not as you first dreamt it.
No,
but your version of the dream
okay.
takes time.
Life changes. And also, although, you know, I was said it's a long term, but don't let that put you off, because we all know how quick time goes, and this long term, as you know, if you could see where I was 10, 12 years ago to where I am now, it's not that, it feels it when you're looking at 10 years hence, but you suddenly get to that 10 years point
and you look back and it was yesterday.
Yes, absolutely. So
that's but also
really
it's
important.
Not a horrible journey.
No,
it's been a fun, those 10 years have been learning, experimenting, enjoying, working out what you liked, what you don't like,
and pushing. You know, if you've got any, I think fear is a big stopper, but you can get over the fear with having the support, with having someone close that can sort of say, actually, that it's not a thing. And when you push through that fear, there's nothing to be frightened of anyway. You know,
it was just the unknown.
It's the unknown,
which is what fear is, isn't it? Yes, false expectations appearing real. So, Jude, thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. We're going to go off and do some more fun now. What I just want to finish off and say to you is, I hope out of this conversation that I've had with Jude, that you see that having your dream is possible, having your dream sooner than you thought is possible, but you need to participate in the creation of your dream, because what you think you want today might not actually be what you want in 2 or 3 years' time. What you end up wanting in 2 or 3 years' time might be even better version of what you thought now. And you can't imagine that until you start moving down that journey. And the journey is not something to go, oh, it's going to take me 10 years till I retire, or 5 years till I get the life I want, or whatever. You're going to be testing out your recipe to get there, to make it the best possible version of what you want it to be when you get there. And the role that property plays for everyone will be slightly different, but there is a role for property in everything that you do. And I said that part of this conversation that I'm going to be having about property is really property for the next generation. So it might be property for how it plays out for your children, but it might be property for the next generation version of your life moving forward. It's a wealthy life and you can create it. Property has a role. It will take time, but that's as much because you're working out what it is that you want as it is getting there. Would that be fair?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, as always, I thank you very much for your time listening to this. It's been the Wealthy Life podcast. My name is Vicky O'Shea. I've had the guest of my dreams today, Judith Green. And as always, I hope that this has put a little whoosh into your life. Thank you for listening.